I got it. Yeah, you can go. Yeah, go ahead. We're back. We're back.
All right, sorry about that interruption, technical difficulties. We are calling the this meeting of the City Plan Commission back to order. It's 5:21. So with that, did you read your recommendation already? Do you want to do that?
I did, yeah, well, so.
I read it, but I didn't know if we read it.
Yeah, so our recommendation is that you advise the council to approve this proposed amendment. And if permitted by the Cannabis Act, we advise that the separation distance from schools be increased to 1,000 feet. And I would also add that the law department be given an opportunity to proofread to make sure that all references are appropriate and accurate.
Okay, thank you. So this is a public meeting. Is there anyone on the sign-in sheet for this agenda item? I think it's called number 5.
Yes, there are a couple.
Oh, okay, all right. Andre Div. And then on deck will be Matthew Smith.
Stand up.
You have to go up to the microphone, sir. And Matthew Smith, if you're here, can you please just stand up right here? We have a lot of people in the audience tonight. I want to make sure we're efficient with public comment.
How's it going? So I will try to be quick. I wrote down a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to get through all of it. So my name is Andre Dev, Dr. Andre Dev. That matters to you. I've been working with a number of groups trying to set up some of these worker-owned dispensaries that were made legal in the 2022 law. For the past 18 months or so, I'm currently going to be a worker owner with one of the groups called Connects Cooperative, but I was formerly working with PVD Flowers. There's also a group called Frio Mind Flowers, and we're all looking into opening these worker-owned businesses. All of these groups would qualify for social equity licenses too, but we're interested in the worker-owned business model because we believe it's the best way to keep the gains from the cannabis industry within the communities where people are working to create solid middle-class jobs and a potential for building wealth in those communities for the workers themselves, not, as we've seen in so many other states, something that is technically social equity, but really ends up being sort of just a front man when most of the money actually gets funneled to someone frequently in another state. So I just wanted to take this in two parts. The first is the ways this helps Providence be competitive, and then the ways that this can ensure the social equity aspect of the law works in practice.
Just to interrupt you real quick. Usually we ask about 2 minutes to limit your comments to about 2 minutes. So I'll start the timer on the next person. I didn't say that before you got up.
All good. I'll be really quick.
Thank you.
So one thing is we want to be competitive in Providence with the other cities in the state. First mover advantage is really, really important in the cannabis industry. And so I really appreciate that the council is doing this proposal to get that up and running early. Because again, you need to have real estate sewed up frequently months before the applications go out, right? You need the real estate in order to do the applications. So without these zoning changes, getting that real estate is really hard and we'll end up being behind. Second, I think this could be a really big political win for the whole city. Being able to open a store with not just diverse workers, but diverse owners of the store, right? Really leading the country in the way we make cannabis socially equitable and protect it from these large corporate interests that have in states all over the country found incredibly intricate, complicated ways to pretend to be social equity applicants, but actually serve the same interests that have been served by every other law we deal with. I do also think that this could end up being, especially in commercial zones, another of Providence sort of distinct attractions in the region, a thing that will bring people to the city. And I also want to just shout out that Providence is the big city in the area, but our competition is Boston and New York, and they have stores in commercial zones. We don't want to fall behind. And I do think that opportunity is the way we should approach this, is because The people with a vested interest in Rhode Island cannabis staying the same, it's not gonna stay the same. It can't. And so if we don't think ahead and build the things we need to think ahead, we'll fall behind. And we don't just have to avoid falling behind. We have a chance to be leading the country. And I want everybody to feel that excitement because it really is there. We just need to work together. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to work together at the state and local level. So just like some quick things, I know I don't have a ton of time. Commercial zones will also allow our customers to access from public transit, which is a huge thing. I mean, everybody uses cannabis. There's no reason it should be limited to people who have cars. It's also a much better shopping experience in a commercial area. Not only do the local businesses benefit from the foot traffic, but customers get to like make a day of it, right? Go, when they're doing other shopping, also be shopping for this. It also, I want to say, the goal of this is to create not just jobs, but very good jobs, like worker owner jobs in cannabis will be much better because you have ownership in the thing, you get voting rights, you get voting rights and sort of democracy in the workplace. But it also, in general, worker co-ops have less employee turnover. And one of the problems in cannabis is that employee turnover is like 55% over a year. So we want these jobs, if the goal of this is not just to make money for the state or for a few individuals and to like make this an industry that really works for the people, focusing on worker ownership and giving these special permits for worker ownership is a big deal. And I also want to take the time, if you guys have questions about what the process looks like to get special permission and why it is so much more onerous for undercapitalized entrepreneurs, and why what ends up happening if you don't do some things by right is it just ends up benefiting the rich people totally by accident.
I think we're gonna have,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
well over 2 minutes. So
Sorry about
thank
that.
you very much
Yeah.
for your input.
Okay.
We'll
Thank you so
take
much.
that in consideration.
Yeah.
Matthew Smith is up. On deck is Sharon Steele.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Smith. I want to speak on the support I have for the proposal and the special consideration for worker-owned businesses. I do have 5+ years in the cannabis industry as a manager. I just want to speak to the uphill battle that workers like myself, coming from ethnic backgrounds like myself, do have to face an uphill battle and basically just obtaining structured so that we can go through development and know that worker ownership will be a possibility for people like us. I do have experience with zoning problems from my second dispensary I worked at, which is Sweet Spot Farms. We had gotten granted our license in May when the lottery had came out, or around June, and 91 Pershing Ave was the location that we had put up a consultation center in order to hold real estate. And it took us about 6 months difference to open the store on December 20th of 23. And that just cost us a lot of money, a lot of wasted time. And I would just like to see, just a development in this bill to benefit people that come from impoverished neighborhoods or that have actually worked in the industry that do have an uphill battle. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Sharon Steele is up next. Miguel Sanchez already spoke, so it's Hunter Silvestri on deck.
Hello, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm the president of the Jewelry District Association. The Jewelry District is 100% in D1, as is all of downtown. Just a quick information. No one in D1 had any idea that this was even going to happen. I learned it last Friday when I was called by the Globe to give them my comments on cannabis in C3, C4, and D1. So there has been zero outreach, no communication, no information, nothing. So all of the people who don't even know about it yet, certainly you're not seeing the building owners of residential buildings here tonight. Suffice it to say that The jewelry district at this point is the Center for Life Sciences. Brown University's med school is there, the Legaretta Cancer Center, all of the new mRNA research, the Life Sciences Integrated Building, 300,000 square feet, State Lab, 200,000 square feet. Every inch of whatever first floor retail space is available is in a residential building. It is our opinion, quick from the board, my board at the JDA, and in speaking with several half dozen building owners downtown, also residential buildings with ground floor retail space, they are opposed, 100% opposed to this, as I am, as we are. If in fact, quality of life is the number one, shall we say, goal of this administration, then I would say we ought to keep it and make it the number one goal of this administration. And with that, under no circumstances by right, if ever by special use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. And there will be multiple city council hearings after this. We're just a recommendation. Up next, Hunter Silvestri, and that's the last person I have on my sign-in sheet.
Hi, my name is Hunter Silvestri. I'm a lifelong Rhode Island resident and a current Providence resident. I am founder of one of the co-op dispensaries that Andre mentioned, Free Your Mind. We're not looking in Providence, but I've been in the scene for a minute. And I'm also an organizer and advocate within the worker co-op space. I really want to impress upon everyone here how unprecedented it is that licenses have been reserved for worker-owned cooperatives. There, as far as we can tell, aren't any worker-owned dispensaries anywhere in the world. It is a model for doing business that's being invented here in Rhode Island right now, and people are paying attention to that. But there are also significant challenges to making worker-owned businesses work. They are hard to invest in because they have a whole bunch of owners. Many banks literally don't know how to lend to them because they're cannabis. Many banks can't. They're hard to get off the ground. They also don't have like a growth philosophy. I heard some concern about kind of, dispensaries popping up everywhere if certain zones are open to worker co-ops, and that's simply not the economic conditions on the ground. This is still a really new sector in Rhode Island. There are very few worker co-ops, and this is a big moment to prove to Rhode Island and to the world that they can work, and they can work here in Providence. Also, just as a resident, I want to say that I look forward to being able to go get cannabis at the store without needing to drive super far and needing to park. I think making these businesses that other cities that I've lived in other states make as accessible as other normal things to get. I look forward to being able to access these things in kind of normal parts of town rather than going out to the edge. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the last person on our sign-in sheet. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on this matter? Raise your hand. Anyone at home, if you're joining us virtually, please raise your virtual hand. It's the bottom middle portion of your screen, or press *9 if you are calling in. Seeing none.
Doesn't look like anyone.
All right, seeing none, we will close the public comment portion of this agenda item. Well, commissioners, this is a recommendation. Obviously, we're not making any policy here. My recommendation for our recommendation would be as drafted, adding in for the law department to proofread and confirm all compliance with state law. And I also really think that there should be special use permits for the retail considered. You have them for liquor stores, why not have them for cannabis stores? I mean, I see it as a similar retail venture. There may be some areas that don't require it or that the city council sees better. But I think special use permits are a nice public check, to make sure that everything complies, especially since we're looking at merging the C1 and the C2, which was not contemplated when this legislation was drafted. So I think that's really important for people to keep in mind. And, that would be my recommendation. Noel?
Maybe it's a question for you, but, is there a particular definition of social equity applicant? Is it
Yes.
not minority owned business?
No.
It's broad, it's more.
Do you want to?
Admittedly, I don't know it off the top of my head. I did look at it. It is defined in the state law. Oh, okay, Bob pulled it up for me. An applicant with at least. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read it really fast. There's essentially several elements that need to be met in order for someone to qualify as a social equity applicant, including that they reside in a disproportionately impacted area, that they or it might be someone in their family has been arrested, convicted of, or adjudicated delinquent for any marijuana related offense that's now eligible for expungement under the new law. They have to have a 51% ownership. Anyway, it's complex. And it'll be subject to additional rules and regulations issued by the Cannabis Control Commission, I believe is the name of the state agency. So it is more specific than ethnicity or that type of background. It's more specific, it's more kind of sort of specific to past injustices resulting from the war on drugs that's my understanding.
And the rules by the Cannabis Commission have yet to be promulgated, right?
Yes, it's my understanding those rules are still being considered.
So my question is, so we're looking at two different things to put in by right. One is social equity applicants or worker co-ops.
No,
They that's what.
oh, yes, that's
Two
correct.
different things,
That's correct.
There are two different
Yes.
things and they're being,
but they will all
Suggested
get the same treatment. Well, both
Well,
those different things
it's-
would get the same treatment under this.
no, it's
change.
proposed that, by C2 zones, cannabis retailer would require a special use permit. In C3, D1 and M1, it would be by right. So that's the cannabis retailer.
Right,
Social
but I'm
equity
saying that
workers would be
social
allowed by
equity-
right everywhere.
Right, I'm saying the social equity applicants are not the same as worker co-op.
Yeah, I also was confused.
That's
about
right. You know what? That's right. And that may be misleading in the staff report. I apologize. They're two separate things. A workers' cooperative a social equity applicant could be a workers' cooperative, but
They're not.
they're not the same.
And so my thought is, do we treat them the same in the,
Are they?
well, they
given-
are treated the same in the change suggested, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the special use permit should be considered for all retail, like all alcohol sales are.
Sorry, are you suggesting that special use permits would go in, when you say retail, C2 and C3?
I'm suggesting it.
Yeah.
The council's going to make whatever decision they make, but I think it's worth considering, especially because of the merging of the C1 and the C2. I think they should take extra time to think about the consequences of that, should it come to fruition.
Well, because we also heard testimony that seems like in other states, the social equity has been co-opted by corporations somehow.
That's
And-
possible, and it's not
do
to
this.
say that it won't happen here. I don't know how to prevent that.
I don't know either. I mean, I agree with the idea, right, that people who have been impacted should
Absolutely.
have the right. I just
And
don't want
I
to
mean,
see
my
it
initial draft,
then kind of become
I think what I wrote for
a
my
retail-
recommendation was a special use permit for C2 on the social equity, but by right in C3, M1, D1, apparently maybe that's up for grabs. And then a special use permit for all normal cannabis retail. I mean, I think that would be more equitable because it allows by right, whereas a retailer, it has to have a special use permit no matter what. But there are certain zones around the city that would allow by right. I'm open to whatever the commission thinks. Again, this is a recommendation. I do think strongly that they should consider special use permits in some or all of the areas, and I think as broad as that can be our recommendation.
Can you flash up the map again?
Yeah. Yeah, bear with me for a second here.
He had to reset a whole bunch of stuff that maybe lost.
Sorry, difficult request.
Sorry to folks at home, I cannot get this on, I can't get this so that I'm sharing my screen. It doesn't work, but this is where it is. So you can see, for example, Classical Central PCTA, sort of eliminates a lot of the commercial area around that Cananic Square. And then
What is that, Cranston Street that goes all the way down?
this is Cranston Street.
Yeah,
This is Elmwood Avenue.
right.
It just so happens that, wherever the schools are, take out certain areas, and then you get some areas. This, of course, is C1 right here.
But that would, if it was merged, would be C2 and,
Yeah. And then there's a few charter schools right in the middle of downtown, so you.
but a large portion of downtown,
Yep,
large portion of South Water Street,
yep,
all of Atwell's Ave.
oh, yep. Olneyville Square,
Olneyville, right?
North Main.
North Main Street, that whole corridor. Yeah, it's a big swath of the city, like the main commercial corridors. Which is why I think they're, rather than painting a broad stroke with by right, I think there should be some special use oversight.
For all of them, even social equity and the workers.
I'd be open to some by right for social equity, similar to what the manufacturing is. I think, C3 and M1
Yeah,
would be appropriate by right. Other areas may need some review, but ultimately it's gonna be the city council's decision. So I think it's time to make a recommendation.
We don't have one of it.
Well, the recommendation that was written was based on the foregoing discussion. The DPD recommends that the city plan commission advise the city council to approve the proposed amendment. If permitted by the Cannabis Act, we advise that the separation distance from the schools be increased to 1,000 feet. We're also wanted to add that the law department should be allowed time to proofread and confirm applicability to state law. And then I'd also add that we have the council look into special use permits for retailers, maybe cannabis retailers under all zones. And considering the merging of C1 and C2, maybe even the social equities with a special use permit in the C2 zone. The potential merging of C1 and C2.
Can I ask one more question? For liquor stores, what is it currently?
Special use permit all the time.
In all those zones?
I don't know that it's by right anywhere. It's a good question. The councilman brought up a good example because he said 500 feet for liquor stores.
Yeah.
Retail sales of alcohol is permitted, C2, C3,
Oh.
D1, W2, M1, MMU, not by special use.
Then maybe I'll take away the specificity of my recommendation and just amend that last part. Given the combination of C1 and C2 potentially, that the city council look at the areas that would require a special use permit for granting of a retail license. Is that good? You got it? So someone could say so moved?
so moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, let's go around and do a voice vote. Noel?
Aye.
Will?
Aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right, we are going to take, because I didn't realize that there was another councilman, here this evening, we're gonna take two more items out of order. So we are now going to jump to council referral number 3, and then also agenda item number 3 and agenda item number 4. The first is council referral number 3578. We're gonna hear these separately, right?
Yeah, we're gonna hear them separately.
Okay, so let's take council referral 3578 first, which is addition of parcels to the historic district.
Okay, this one, is a proposal by Councilman Gonzalez, in the first ward, and this would add, a number of parcels to the historic district. This item is on for information only. The City Plan Commission has a policy that requires some research to be done about historic districts, specifically about, an evaluation of the historic character of the proposed district and the, buildings that are proposed to be included. And also that there be community outreach, to see how much support there is, for this. We like there to be a strong majority of property owners that are in support of this. We want everybody to understand what this is. So there is a process, and we are happy to help the councilman with that process, with mapping, with information about what it means for property to be included in the historic district. So this is the beginning of the process. This is for information for you. There's no vote that you need to take at this moment. It'll come back to you once this legwork has been done for a recommendation to the city council.
Wonderful.
So beyond that, I don't know that we need to, maybe the councilman wants to say a few words about it, but you know, as I said, this would just be the beginning of the process, and this is for your information.
Councilman Gonzalez, first of all, I apologize. I didn't take you into consideration this evening. I didn't realize you were here until after we started the first agenda item.
No worries, thank you. We're happy to table this item to continue it for the future. We do have a study committee that we have selected for this, so we intend to submit that to the commission.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Anyone have questions for the councilman on this, since obviously they'll be back?
Right. Is there a percentage of homeowners needed to get this?
Well, the council can, this is, you know, really nothing more than a zoning map change. So the council can approve it at their discretion, but we would like to see well over half of property owners, just because we find that first of all, it's pretty significant regulation. We want people to understand it, and we want people to buy into it. We find that compliance is much easier when people are, you know, when people are embrace this kind of regulation. And when people don't, we find that enforcement and compliance is very difficult. So, yeah.
Are we talking of creating a new local historic district?
This would be
correct.
essentially an expansion to the College Hill Historic District.
Great.
And our goal is to get 50% plus one. So we'll be back.
Just
there.
like an election. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. All right, thank you very much.
There's one, no, we don't need public comment on this, but there is another one. that
Yes,
The
so
councilman.
We're gonna move right into agenda item number 4, which now is number 3. It's a city council referral also. It's referral number 3579. It's amendment related to demolition in historic districts.
Okay, and if I might just quickly introduce this, and then we can come back for our recommendation. So this would be an amendment to the zoning ordinance with respect to historic districts, and it would impose a 6-month demolition delay on applications for demolition within historic districts. This would not apply outside of historic districts. So I think maybe the councilman can take it from here.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Chair Costaco, Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Sherry, Mr. Lipschitz, and also Mr. Caldwell. I want to begin by expressing my heartfelt gratitude for all the work that you do on the CPC and for your dedicated service. Today, I'm in my capacity as the councilman for Ward 1. I represent Fox Point, Wayland Square, College Hill, the Jewelry District, and downtown. I'm here with Marissa Brown, the Executive Director of the Providence Preservation Society, who's joining me to talk more about the 6-month demolition delay proposal. The ordinance is a byproduct of working collaboratively with the city's legal department. I want to thank our wonderful Deputy City Solicitor, Megan DeSanto, who helped us craft this ordinance. And this is in compliance, just to be clear, with state and federal laws. This proposal is more than just a legal measure. It's really a testament to preserving the rich history and vibrant fabric of our neighborhoods and city. So tonight I want to share why this ordinance is essential for our community and address any concerns that the CPC may have. Consider the story of a historic home anywhere in the city, built perhaps 100 years ago, that has seen generations of families grow and thrive within its walls. It has witnessed the evolution of the city, enriched the aesthetic of our neighborhood, standing as a testament to our rich history. Now imagine that same home facing the threat of demolition. Its history and its stories essentially reduced to rubble. Once a historic building is demolished, the unique stories and the irreplaceable history are lost forever, leaving a void that reconstruction can't fill. I grew up in Fox Point. Take the aquarium on Wickenden Street, for example, the historic Duck and Bunny. Imagine the demolition of the iconic Superman building, for example. These are important and nostalgic places for people, and our proposed ordinance seeks to prevent such losses solely within historic districts. As Providence continues to grow and develop, we must maintain our neighborhood vibrancy as well as the historic fabric and aesthetic beauty that makes Providence a unique and wonderful place to live. Demolition delay ordinances are powerful tools that help us maintain this unique blend. They've been successfully implemented in cities across the country, including right here in Rhode Island. These regulations introduce essentially a waiting period before the demolition of a historic structure can occur, allowing for thorough assessment, public input, exploring alternatives to demolition. Take Newton, Massachusetts, for example. Since 1985, Newton's demolition delay ordinance has ensured that any potential demolition undergoes a comprehensive review process. Properties must be deemed historically significant by the Historical Commission, and this approach safeguards the city's cultural heritage while respecting private property rights and fosters community engagement. Additionally, demolition delays have been successfully implemented in cities across the country, from Chicago to Dallas, Portland, Oregon, to Helena, Montana. Closer to home, the Massachusetts Historical Commission has provided guidance and a model bylaw for communities to implement their own demo delays. As of April 2023, 159 communities in Massachusetts have adopted such ordinances, with many delay periods ranging from 6 months to more than 12 months. So our proposed ordinance is similar to these successful models and takes a very balanced approach. It ensures that no demolition permits will be issued until the Historic District Commission has completed its review process and issues a certificate of appropriateness. This step guarantees a thorough evaluation of the historical value of any proposed demolition within historic districts. And I intend to walk through the ordinance really quickly in detail, which has been supported by hundreds of residents across the city, the Providence Preservation Society, several neighborhood associations, and has also been co-sponsored by several of my colleagues. In fact, if it were to go for a vote, given the number of co-sponsors that I have on the city council, it would pass. So I think that's critical to put in perspective. With our ordinance, for any application seeking the demolition of structures within a historic district, there would be a mandatory 6-month delay from the date of application. The delay would provide ample time to consider alternatives to demolition, except in cases of emergencies. Before a demolition permit can be granted for historically valuable structures, applicants would have to compile an archival package. This would include the history of the property, elevation drawings, floor plans, and photographs. And that documentation would be submitted to both the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and the Heritage Commission, and also the City Archives Department, preserving a record of the structure for future generations. Furthermore, if a demolition application is denied without an appeal or significant change to the structure due to damage or other events, no application for the same or similar work would be allowed for 1 year. This would prevent repeated attempts to demolish historically valuable structures without substantial reason. Our city is not alone in recognizing some of these measures. Again, many cities and towns have implemented similar demolition delays to protect their historical assets. And this ordinance applies specifically to locally designated districts, ensuring the significant structures receive the protection they deserve without imposing broader restrictions. And we very much kept that in mind while we were drafting this ordinance amendment. The 6-month demo delay, again, allows for comprehensive assessments, public engagement, and also maintaining our cultural and historical fabric. Additionally, it would support tourism, local businesses, and community identity. It provides long-term benefits that far outweigh the short-term financial gains from demolition. And additionally, preservation is more sustainable, reducing waste and preventing demolition and all of the materials that come along with it from ending in a landfill, is thereby promoting environmental stewardship. So the staff report here argues that the current review process by the HDC is sufficient. While the HDC's standards and guidelines are certainly robust, our proposed ordinance enhances this process by ensuring a mandatory 6-month delay within historic districts. And so it's a very balanced approach. This allows for more time and more consideration and more input. There's clearly precedent for this kind of legislation. And a structured delay period offers additional safeguards and time for exploring alternatives. The important facet here is that if there is an emergency demolition, that can still go through the normal process, and that can occur essentially by right without undergoing a lengthy, extensive demolition delay. As the comprehensive plan proposes upzoning R2 and R3 and R2 to R3 and R3 to R4, we anticipate an emerging and greater demand for families and property owners to sell their properties to investment property owners intent on potentially demolishing these homes to build more dense developments. That's inevitable. That will happen. So this trend has already been apparent. It's happening in lots of places across the city. And while the staff report mentions that there hasn't been any demolitions in HDCs, the pressure to demolish and develop in these overlays will inevitably increase with the upzoning that's being proposed by the Planning Commission. So in conclusion, the 6-month demolition delay ordinance is a thoughtful approach to preserving the vibrancy of our community. It fosters community engagement. It supports economic and cultural benefits. It promotes environmental sustainability. And I understand that the staff report recommends denial, but I sincerely hope that each of you keeps an open mind and even consider making a motion to move this to the council without a recommendation. So it's more of a neutral recommendation, because it would give my colleagues the opportunity to vet this ordinance appropriately and weigh the merits of this proposal. Again, we have several sponsors on this ordinance. They are eager to see this come to fruition. And I think it's critically important that we don't get involved in the politics, but we are fair in our process. And we also keep in mind that this is really about safeguarding the historic vibrancy within historic district overlays. I might add that I would find it quite concerning that we would be more amenable to passing broad regulations on retail marijuana shops than we would be on preserving historic properties. So I just hope that everyone keeps an open mind, and I hope that we can continue to have discussions about this. And again, I want to thank you for your time, your dedication, and your consideration. And I'm happy to take questions following the testimony from Marissa Brown from the Providence Preservation Society.
Thank you. I'm Marissa Brown, the Executive Director of Providence Preservation Society. So I'm here to, thank Councilman Gonsalves on this really important work, to just state that we, PPS, strongly support this measure, and to tell you a little bit about why we support it. Over the last 60 years, PPS has been really critical in this city to helping to establish the city's historic districts and protect places that are beloved by community members. We really believe that this amendment provides additional protection to historic resources and that the review period seems reasonable given the irreversibility of demolition in these few recognized historic districts. I kind of want to go back actually for a second and think a little bit about preservation and especially federal preservation laws that began as a result of urban renewal, because I do think in some ways we're about to enter a very pronounced period of development in Providence. And it might be helpful just to think a little bit about why preservation policies and laws were invented in the first place. I think that this amendment is really in keeping with the spirit and intentions of those federal regulations and policies that govern nationally recognized historic districts. It may be helpful to just think about Congress's own language in the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, which recognized that as a result of the immense rate of growth and demolition during the urban renewal era, this is a quote, historic properties significant to the nation's heritage are being lost or substantially altered, often inadvertently with increasing frequency. The preservation of this irreplaceable heritage is in the public interest, so its vital legacy, and so is its vital legacy of cultural, educational, aesthetic, inspirational, economic, and energy benefits will be maintained and enriched for future generations of Americans. PPS understands that cities evolve over time. Growth is important. Growth is critical to who we are, what cities are. And that sometimes there are cases where demolition of properties really have to take place. Properties can't necessarily be rescued and adaptively reused. But we also believe that historic places are a valuable shared resource, and that the civic institutions, cities, and states have a responsibility to create and enforce reasonable policies to ensure proper consideration before irreversible decisions are made. During the period of urban renewal that I was just talking about, so many cities that we know that are very close to us, like New Haven and St. Louis, chose growth and development over preservation at all costs. And we know what those cities are like now, and we know how fortunate we are to live in a city that chose balance during that era. So I really hope that we don't, in this moment, squander that inheritance, because we as a community, this planning department, Providence Preservation Society, people in Providence, worked so hard to envision alternatives that were really balanced, and I think we're really lucky for the results. I just wanted to talk to for a second about why I think 6 months is reasonable. The reason I think 6 months is reasonable is that there are increasing numbers of cities that are moving kind of within the framework of sustainability goals, thinking about landfills, thinking about climate change, to put in place provisions that, number one, make it easier to move buildings. So if there's a building that, where an attempt is made to save it, and the community decides that what is going to go in its place is so overwhelmingly supported by the community. Austin, for example, in 2023, made it a lot easier for buildings to be saved and moved. That isn't done overnight. It's not done in 30 days. It can take months for something like that to play out, and for a plan to be made, and for movement to happen. The other thing I would think about is San Antonio, for example, in 2022, adopted a deconstruction ordinance. What that does is that certain projects need to, seeking a demolition permit, must be fully deconstructed as opposed to mechanically demolished. So with approval of that ordinance just 2 years ago, San Antonio became the largest city in the country to ensure that valuable materials are salvaged, recycled, reused, not sent to the landfill. So part of what I'm thinking about with 6 months, and I'm wondering if that's sort of, part of the issue here, is the amount of time, because we know how many communities have adopted these ordinances, and sometimes they're 30 days, they're 45, they're 60 days. I think that things are changing. I think we're going to increasingly see more cities want to move buildings, and certainly more cities want to put in place ordinances to salvage and reuse materials. Those kinds of projects are very hard to organize. And I think that a 6-month demolition delay makes things like that possible. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything else, Councilman?
Well, I'd also like to just share very briefly, thank you for that wonderful testimony, that I'm not anti-development. There are lots of developments that are happening, particularly in Ward 1, as you all are very aware of. Downtown is ripe for density, as well as the jewelry district. I think what we have to be careful about is a one-size-fits-all model. We have beautiful historic properties all across our city, and this is trying to strike a balance. So I just want to state that for the record, because this is a way to address some of the challenges that we're experiencing. And again, I hope that the CPC would be open to at least making a motion to move this without a recommendation, should you not be in support of this ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we already have protections for historic districts on the books. None of the 3 examples you mentioned at the beginning about the Duck and Bunny, the aquarium on Hope and Wickenden, and the Superman building, your proposed legislation wouldn't add any protection to them because they're not in historic districts.
Correct.
The Superman building actually already does have demolition protection because it's in the downtown district, which is under DDRC review prior to demolition. So that's one of the only other places inside the city that has demolition review. And the Historic District Commission does a very good job of reviewing. I mean, the staff report clearly lays out, in 20 years, we haven't had a historic demolition of a significant house in a historic district. Like that's a pretty good record from the HDC. This wouldn't change demolition that's occurring like those two buildings you mentioned, like the buildings on Angel Street, like anything else that's demolished, that's a historic structure outside of a historic district. So I don't understand. We already have protections on the books. I don't understand what this is actually doing.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
So prior to us talking about this, we just talked about our proposal for an expansion of the historic district overlay.
Exactly.
So,
And that's how you protect structures. You
yes.
put them in a historic district.
So as we continue to protect structures through that process, which is the HDC process, that means significantly more properties, in this case, with the College Hill expansion overlay, you would provide additional protections for those properties. So let's take the example of the College Hill Historic District overlay, which I was the lead sponsor on in 2021, which protected over 90 properties from demolition. These regulations would apply to those properties. To your point, it wouldn't apply to, let's say, the historic district Duck and Bunny, because that was outside of a historic district overlay. My point there, as I mentioned, the Superman building as well, is these are iconic structures that if demolished, there's irrevocable loss. Those buildings are gone forever, and the historical value of those homes will cease to exist forever. So again, we're taking a very balanced approach here. This is solely within historic district overlays. Now, there is an opportunity certainly to expand those, which would provide additional protections, and that's what we seek to do.
Other commissioners, any questions for the councilman? We're going to open this up to public comment, obviously.
And to be clear, with the HDC process, when we're expanding the overlay, again, that would only apply to properties that are historical in nature. So let's say an empty lot, surface level parking, those could still be built with very dense developments if they're zoned for it. And this would not apply to those plats and lots.
If it was in a historic district, it would.
Yes, it would, correct.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's protection in historic district. I mean, I think, again, the Superman building you brought up again, this is not enhancing protection of a Superman building. This is enhancing protection in historic districts.
Correct.
Okay.
But there is an opportunity to expand those districts.
Right, and I'm all for that. That's how you protect the structures. I don't know that adding a demolition delay does, but well, that's your choice. You're the policymaker. Any questions of the councilman before we?
Confused again, because there's two different things, right?
We're talking, this is only about
I know
demolition delay in
about
historic
demolition
districts.
delay, but
Correct.
Noel, please speak into the microphone.
Yep. So it keeps coming up about the expansion of the historic district. I know we're not.
That's
talking
separate
about
and
that
apart.
now. That's a separate thing. I'm trying to understand. So we do have some demolition delays in the historic district because they have to be approved by a certificate in the
Correct.
historic district commission. This is just adding a time frame to that?
Correct. So in our current zoning ordinance, there isn't a stipulated time frame. So the process does take some time. In a very expedited fashion, it could probably take about 45 days, but there isn't a mandatory built-in 6-month demolition delay.
So the request, so I can understand, is to, when there's an application for, demolishing, and it seems like it's more than just a primary structure, also secondary structures, sounds like.
Correct.
Like that. So when there's an application that involves demolishing anything in the historic district, that then an automatic 6-month time would go into the process.
Correct. Before there's a certificate of appropriateness issued to
So it
the.
couldn't be issued by the staff and it couldn't be issued at the first meeting. If I understand right, you're trying to get the demolition more in the public before it happens. Is that right? Or-
Sure, so public engagement is certainly a part of it. I mean, we've seen, I can give you a number of examples. The historic Duck and Bunny, before we changed, so I was the lead sponsor on amending the ordinance to provide additional notification on that. I remember waking up on it was a Sunday morning in Easter Sunday. That property was demolished. I woke up, had hundreds of calls and emails, and none of my neighbors knew that that property was set to be demolished. We amended that statute in the ordinance to provide for additional notification. But without providing a significant time frame for people to understand what is set to happen in their own backyards, therein lies the problem. People should be engaged if there's going to be a demolition that happens in their own backyard. They should certainly, I don't think there's a single person who would want to wake up and find a property raised right next to them without any notification. So there's the public engagement piece. The other piece is it provides an opportunity to think about alternatives to demolition. Maybe there's a sale that could occur. Maybe there's the opportunity to move the property. I know in Ward 1, before Brown demolished 7 homes on Brook Street, they agreed to sell off the property for $1 to any nonprofit that would be willing to move that historic home to a different site. Now, that took months to engage with those folks to try to find an alternative home for those properties. And ultimately, they decided to raise them, and those properties are gone forever. So this 6-month built-in delay, which again, there's lots of precedent for it. If you look at other cities and towns, if you look at our neighboring states, it just provides an opportunity for people to be a part of that public engagement process, but also for the property owner to potentially find an alternative to demolition.
Thanks. Yeah.
So I know this goes for, the full demolition of properties, but to what extent does it extend to demolishing parts of them, demolishing interior elements? Right now, the HDC only really sees things that deal with the exterior.
Yes, this would only apply to anything on the exterior. Any interior renovations that don't affect the exterior are exempt from HDC review.
And if I may, part of the charm of Providence is our beautiful historic homes. So that was really the impetus for this ordinance. We worked on it extensively. It's been legally vetted. So again, what we're asking for here is very reasonable, and it strikes a balance to preserve important properties in our city, particularly within historic districts.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. At this point, we'll hear the staff report and then we'll open it up to public comment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will say that everything that the councilman and Marissa Brown said about the importance of protecting historic resources and to have a robust process around proposals for demolition, I completely agree with. And I will argue that the Historic District Commission has in place incredibly robust protective measures when it comes to demolition. And as we say in the staff report, that within the residential historic districts of the city, those traditional districts, College Hill, Elmwood, armory and so forth, there has not been a demolition approved. There was only one that was, and I'm talking about in the past 20 years, as long as I've been with the city, 24 years. There was one that was applied for and the application was withdrawn before it could be considered because it wasn't going to be approved. The rules that are in place, the procedures that are in place are an incredibly effective deterrent against demolition. Now, so, you know, that alone, I think, is reason enough not to approve this. I don't disagree with a delay in demolition. There is a delay in demolition, and it relates to all the procedures that have to be followed, all of the application documentation requirements that have to be entered into the record and considered by the Historic District Commission. And as a practical matter, demolition is going to take more than one cycle, more than one monthly cycle of meetings. So we just don't feel that there is a need for additional layers of regulation, especially when it comes to structures that the Historic District Commission finds are not contributing to the district, and there are procedures around that to make findings for contributing structures and so forth. So respectfully, with all that in mind, we recommend that you advise the council not to approve this.
Okay. With that, this is a public meeting, so we will open it up to public comment. This is agenda item number 4. So let me see. I'm so confused where we're at right now. All right, Mark Shepard is up. Oh, I'm sorry. That is Mary. That is a Y. I apologize. And then Lily Bogosian, you're on deck. Again, there's a 2-minute time frame for public comment.
I'm Mary Shepard, and I've been a member of the Providence Preservation Society for many years, even before I moved to Providence. I live on the east side, and I drive by this vacant lot on Angel Street, where the 3 fine houses of, I guess, the 19 teens were demolished, I don't know, a year ago. Anyway, it shouldn't have happened. I don't think we can be strong enough. I mean, we should definitely go for this 6-month delay. You cannot be too tough to save a great building. And, you know, one of the reasons we love Providence is our historic fabric. We've just got to protect it for all it's worth. And especially with this new upzoning coming, I heard Clark Shuttle give his great concern. Clark was head of the revolving fund here in Providence for many years. And with this upzoning that we're about to have, more structures are going to be in danger. So we've got to add as much strength to our current legislation as we can. It's harmless. Just add more time. That would mean more transparency, more public comment like me. So I'm all for it. And city, you please, yes, you have to go for this. It's like apple pie and motherhood.
Thank you. All right, Lily Bogosian. And then on deck is, well, Marissa Brown was already spoke, Daisy Schneppel.
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
I'm done.
Start. No, you're not.
You wish. I'm Lily
I don't.
Bogosian. I'm the president of Fox Point Neighborhood Association. And I want to say that with regard to the upzoning, that word that we keep using tonight, it's going to happen much faster now. So the HDC does its very best, and they do a very good job to keep up. But now they're going to be really stressed because, as you know, as a result of many of the decisions that you have made, there are going to be many, many applications in front of them. And they don't have the resources to find out the things that the public often finds out over the course of 6 months. This is why other cities like Boston have enacted that 6-month and sometimes 1-year restriction on demolition. It can make a really big difference in the lives of many people who live in those zones, because quite often HDCs do not necessarily know that there is an open application here, there, and the other place, and they can't always stay on top of them, and you end up with tear downs going just rapidly, and you end up with a lot of crises with regard to traffic, with regard to lifestyle, with regard to health of people, and furthermore, with regard to sustainability, because if you have a 6-month, and I'm urging the staff to please consider this, if you have a 6-month delay, you have an opportunity to find people in the neighborhood who would say, I'll buy that. I need a smaller place, or I'll buy that. I need a bigger place. And that can really make a big difference, as Marissa Brown was talking about with regard to preserving some of these buildings. And why not? It's all it is a yellow light. It's not like saying, we don't want this. It's just a yellow light. So thank you for considering this, and good evening.
Thank you. Daisy, you're up, and Nina Markov is on deck.
I'm Daisy Schneppel, and I am a board member of the Fox Point Neighborhood Association. I've lived in Fox Point for 35, 45 years, and I've done a lot of work for the neighborhood. And I think it's important to give everyone time to think about demolition when it's going to happen within an historic district. So I completely agree with Lily, and I think it would be a good idea to extend the time limit here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Nina's up, and then Chris Tompkins, you're on deck.
Hi, I'm Nina Markov. I'm president of the College Hill Neighborhood Association. And I really don't have anything new to add. I think John and Marissa said it all. So I don't want to repeat all of that. I just think, I hope you reconsider and do support demolition delay. I just think adding an extra layer of protection is a good idea. And I don't see any reason not to. It will do no harm. And I do think that there will be a huge amount of pressure, as John said, with all of the upzoning that's going on, and that will send developers into these desirable neighborhoods. And I just think anything that protects these beautiful buildings that make Providence the great place it is helpful. So, and can I give my letter to you for the record?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Tompkins is up. Kari Lang is on deck.
Thank you for your service. I just wanted to share with you one case study. About 15 years ago, the 10-term Democrat mayor of Charleston, South Carolina, came to Providence. And I was lucky enough to hear his talk, which I believe was sponsored by PPS. It was about 15 years ago. And he noted that under his watch, no historic properties are ever demolished, period. No gray area. Well, we're now at 2024. The city of Charleston is a case example of a booming economy. And it's something that we need to look up to. And Mayor Riley served the city for 40 years as mayor and was chairman of the US Conference of Mayors. So I think while the planning department makes some excellent points about the HCC holding the line and protecting historic district, there's going to be, as people have previously noted, there's going to be increasing pressure on the HDC to be reasonable. And I think we just can't have one of Providence's greatest calling cards demolished because of reasonableness. Thank you.
Thank you. Kari, you're up, and Ann Tate is on deck.
Hello. I'd like to thank Councilor Goncalves for the proposed amendments and caring about protecting Providence's irreplaceable places. I very strongly support the 6-month delay, and I support requiring archival documentation. You think about the Grove Street School, the Hawks Building, the police fire station, even the old Gulf Gas Station. Those were not archivally documented. And you also think about what they are now, and they're still empty lots that are not positively contributing to the city. I also very much appreciate the amendments will show support for the Historic District Commission, and they really deserve support. Their thorough and thoughtful design review process has, in my 25 years of coming before the Historic District Commission, I've seen their exceptional counsel improve designs, which is good for the property owner and for the city both. The staff report mentions the different roles for contributing and non-contributing structures, and that outbuildings and additions should receive a swift approval for demolition. I would suggest that these buildings also have a value in their embodied energy and potential to become accessory dwelling units, which will help our housing crisis and fit seamlessly within our neighborhoods, which is so important. As an example, I will point to the West Broadway Neighborhood Association's 1192 Westminster Street garage, which is just being completed and is transformed from a just plain old cinder block garage, 400 square feet, into a accessible home. Finally, and most importantly, to the point in the staff report that there have been no demolitions in residential historic districts in over 20 years, and that the proposed amendments would not prevent any delay of demolition of any structure outside of a historic district, I'd ask the City Plan Commission to consider this. 6.8% of Providence land area falls within the local historic district. If I could just finish this one point. This includes the Providence Landmarks District. Not protected National Register districts covers another 28.4%. So, but yet 90% of Providence's buildings are over 75 years old. So they're considered historic. Is it fair that just this small amount of irreplaceable resources have protection? I ask the City Plan Commission to recommend an amendment to this amendment to the ordinance to expand the demolition delay ordinance citywide so that it is more fair and protects a greater area than just the local historic districts, just 6.8%. And I feel like it's an important thing for equity and for climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ann Tate.
Thank you for having me, allowing me to speak today. I live in Federal Hill. I was president of WBNA at one point. I was the head of CDC for the West Side for 8 years for the community, but I live in Federal Hill, which is actually not part of the West Broadway. And I want to say that in my 27 years, or 28 almost, living in that neighborhood as a tenant and as a homeowner, I have watched the demolition by neglect and willful arson of many historic schools and buildings in my neighborhood. It's on the periphery of the Broadway Historic District. I had my own property signed up as an individual national, local district building as part of the city to protect it. But what I learned from being in Federal Hill is the willful, unwillful interest in having any oversight. But also during that time, I've seen the loss of 3 historic schools and 1 double building within 3 blocks of my home. The most recent was Grove Street School, which was willfully neglected for 30 years in order to have it demolished and eventually illegally demolished on a Saturday morning. And I want to say all these properties were historic, built in 1901. It was sold for the same amount it was built in 1901 and 1982. It's one example. What did happen to these buildings? They became parking lots. We have on-street parking, but we still have relatively high living occupancy in our buildings. And what I've seen is the paving of many of the historic buildings that once stood in our neighborhood. What I suggest is not to have a local district demolition delay, but to have a townwide and ideally a statewide. When I was on the advising committee for Rhode Island Preservation, Preserve Rhode Island, we discussed a statewide demo delay. Of course, that would be difficult. But if we look at Massachusetts as a guide, almost 50% of their towns and cities have demo delay things. So I just want to say, I think if we're going to have one, we should have one like they do in Massachusetts towns, which has any eligible National Register property be under demolition delay, not just local historic districts like my own house.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the public who would like to speak on this matter? Please come on. Why don't you stand up and wait there? And then if you're joining us from home and you want to speak on this matter, please raise your virtual hand in the middle bottom portion of the screen or press *9 if you're calling in.
Hi, my name is Liz Moran. I'm the president of the Mile of History Association. I submitted my written testimony to all of you earlier today. And thank you for letting me speak. Just in listening to everyone who has spoken, I guess my question is, why not? What's the rush? Why not wait the 6 months, let people deliberate, find out why the demolition is so important? 6 months is the blink of an eye, and I think it would give everyone a real opportunity to discuss any demolitions and perhaps find a way around them. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Justin Baptista, Providence resident. And as robust as the protections the historic districts have, this extra layer of protection with the 6-month period is absolutely necessary for the property owners, for the neighbors, for the neighborhood, because the fate of a historic building affects the lives of those around it. The city is changing. And as it changes, more public engagement is necessary. The 6 months period provides the appropriate amount of time for a historic neighborhood with all the connections and points involved. The time period currently applied for a demolition delay is nowhere near appropriate with what's at stake. Moving forward, Providence requires a balance of past and future. Too much of either threatens the city's identity and those of its residents. The 6-month demolition delay respects that balance. Please give this proper consideration. What could you lose from this? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Will. Son?
What was the last name again?
My name is Will Tower. I live in Elmwood. I'd like to speak against the amendment. I'd like to say that it seems like the HGC has an excellent record that 6 months is an undue burden on development of historical properties, which it seems like some of which are blighted, becoming parking lots. And, be excellent if we could shorten the development time and make it easier to develop those. Sorry, I'm very nervous. Yes, I'd just like to speak against the amendment, so.
Thank you very much. We have a couple people joining us at home that have raised their hands, or in the virtual world, they could be anywhere. Again, if you're wishing to speak on this and you're joining us, please raise your virtual hand or press *9. The first one is John Woolsey. Hi, John.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. Point about there's been no demolition over the last 20 years in historic districts. But I just want to underline, I think several people have said in Providence, with all the various demands for housing and for the upgrade of zoning. And I think we need a belt and suspenders protection that this demolition delay would give us. I also think it's worth noting that meeting after meeting after meeting of the City Plan Commission, we've had this drumbeat of distress from citizens of Providence about imminent demolitions or development proposals. And I think there's just increasing doubt about the resolve of city agencies to hold would underline that. So I would ask for your support for the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Sarah Gleason.
Yeah, Sarah Gleason, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm.
You were unmuted and, yep, you're, oh, I'm sorry. Messed that up. Sorry about that, Sarah, go ahead. Sarah, you can unmute and go ahead.
Okay, here we go, right?
Yep.
I lived for 2 years at 228 Angel Street, which was a Wheeler School property across from the 3 buildings demolished recently. And that was in 1968 and 1970. And at that time, the area was actually a neighborhood. And I remember neighbors who lived nearby on Brook Street. This neighborhood has vanished, partly because there have been no protections for the historic buildings that were there. Providence did such a good job in the 1960s and 70s preserving, for instance, Benefit Street, thanks to Ended and Downing. And the 180-degree turn to the present, where we don't seem to have any awareness of the priceless value of our historic buildings, is horrifying. And for that reason, I think that the demolition delay should be made part of the entire city's ordinance. And I hope you will consider that and pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. That looks to be the last person to speak. So at this point, we will close the public comment portion of this agenda item. So my thoughts, big picture. A couple of people brought up the Angel Street houses again and again, and this amendment would not protect those houses. They would still be demolished. They would have no more protection than they do today. A few people said this would be harmless. I actually don't think it would be harmless. There are non-contributing structures and non-historic structures that would be affected by this 6-month delay. And I think that would be harmful. I support PPS. I've donated, I volunteered countless of hours. I assisted in their strategic plan maybe 10 years ago. I volunteered for them many, many times. I donated a lot of money. I support preservation. I've worked in adaptive reuse. I own a historic home in a historic district. I think the HDC does a really good job doing their job. I worry about the unintended consequences of this because this is not really expanding protections. I'm in support of new historic districts too, local historic districts. I think expanding local protection is a great goal, and I support Councilman Gonzalez's investigation into expanding protection into Fox Point. This, I don't see a really good planning tool. I don't think this will end up as a really good planning tool. I think this would cause unintended consequences for non-historic and non-contributing structures. Again, there is historic demolition protection in local historic districts already, and this is only going to pertain to local historic districts that already exist or will exist in the future. And then there's also some protections in the downtown area, in the D1 district, because they have another step of review before demolition. I tend to agree with the recommendation of the planning department, again, as a preservationist and as someone who supports new additional local historic districts.
Yeah, I feel really similarly, and I too am pretty supportive of preservation generally and adding to the districts that we have. The one piece I wonder about is, and I don't really think it's in our purview, but the sort of notification of, people who are more immediately affected by demolition.
I think that Councilman Gonzalez passed an ordinance related to that.
I know it's part of at least for immediate abutters, it's part of the HGC process, but it doesn't allow for a lot of time, and it is immediate abutters, so it might be that there are, maybe in the case of demolition, there's more.
I think there's notification for demolition even outside of historic districts now.
Well, there's a requirement for posting. Posting on the site that, and notification of the council person for the ward where the property is located. So you can imagine if it's going to the council person, then information will get distributed to those who are paying attention to communications from their council person.
One thing that continues to be brought up by people is the idea that we can just have a delay on historic structures in the National Register or federally recognized historic districts, not locally or citywide. I don't believe that's legal, is it?
There's not been a lot of case law interpreting our historic district enabling legislation. So I can't say that I'm right or wrong entirely. But my understanding is that the way that legislation is drafted, we can only regulate in historic zones. Whether the ordinance allows parcel level zoning, it's possible. I'm not entirely sure whether it does or doesn't. Right, but if a property, whether it's recognized as federally on the National Register or otherwise, if it's not in a zone as mapped and passed by the city council, we're not able, I believe, as a municipality to further regulate
Under state law.
Under state law.
That's what I thought. I believe this city of Providence takes the view that local level zoning, a la our landmark districts, which are single parcels sprinkled throughout our city, we have the purview to do that on an individual parcel by parcel basis, as long as we identify it as a local historic district or landmark district. And again, I think we do a really good job of regulating demolition in our HDCs.
I have a few comments or questions. So we keep hearing about the federal historic districts in the city, and I know that this doesn't apply. This amendment doesn't apply to that, but I wonder if there's a way to put an amendment in that would.
That's what we were kind of just saying.
Well,
For the federal historic, I don't know how that works, right? It's just, I know that it's not considered in this one because we don't have any.
You would, if you wanted to include National Register properties within it, to give them demolition protection, you would have to add them to local historic districts.
Individually or?
Individually, yeah, I mean, we're actually gonna be talking to you next week. One thing that we need to add to the comprehensive plan is edits to our overlay districts. We haven't included that yet, and that includes the historic districts. So that would be the time, if there are properties within National Register districts, for example, or other properties within the city that you think are worthy of protection should be added to historic districts. It could be done through that mechanism of the comprehensive plan. But if you want demolition delay, that's the way to do it. Put it in a local historic district.
And do we have an opinion from the Historic District Commission about this?
They have not opined on this. That's not really their role. They're not necessarily a policy-making body. They're more of a regulatory body.
So we don't know what they think about the 6-month delay by law or
No.
whatever. Cause I think, so the issue that I think that I'm hearing is that it's about the neighbors not knowing what's gonna happen. And that the reason to put it in 6 months is because then maybe they will know, but if there's no notification requirement in the law for demolition, if it's just a posting or, you know.
Well, and that's in non-historic districts. If you're
No, I'm just
submitting,
talking about the historic district.
if you're
right?
submitting a historic district application, I believe you get
The
notified.
200-foot radius.
200-foot radius.
I can't, I know at least immediate abutters, but for demolition, it might be 200 feet.
Yeah, I think it depends on the nature of the application.
Right.
No, it's
Yeah,
not 200 feet.
Cause
for all
a
of them.
submission for like a building, a new building or is 200 feet, but you're right, there may be different criteria for notification for.
So to me, it seems that that's the issue, right? That people don't know and something happens. The neighbors don't know. And by putting in a 6-month mandatory delay, I think that's the hope that this will accomplish that. I'm not sure that that's enough to accomplish the people knowing, even if the delay was 4 months or something.
Right.
So, and so I think that that's the issue that the city council might wanna try to figure out how to get into the amendment.
Notification.
Well, that the neighbors would know.
Yeah.
I don't-
Notification requirements for demolition in historic districts.
Right, I mean, I don't know that 6 months is really gonna affect a process that much for.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking like, it's probably gonna take everyone all 3 months to get a historic structure demolished in the historic district. That's a
Right.
contributing structure. I think that's probably the fastest. You're gonna need
Right.
2 meetings
You
most
need
likely.
2 meetings.
Yeah, it's 2 meetings and you need 30 days, like advanced submission. It's gonna be.
So it's similar to what the clock starts running when we get,
Yeah,
in some things that we deal with.
yeah, I don't see this doing anything but harming potentially non-contributing or non-historic structures in historic districts.
But I think it could be beneficial for the neighbors to know,
Well,
even for non-contributing structures, right?
Can I speak to that?
It-
I mean, as the legislator, I'm here I can share that I'm happy to make amendments based on.
please make it quick because we have a
Yeah.
lot of other agenda items to get through tonight.
Sure, so I understand that there are concerns here, so I'm happy to, of course, irrespective of the recommendation that's made by the CPC, this will go before the council. I do have the votes right now. based on the number of co-sponsors. So if members of the CPC would like to provide us with additional recommendations, we're happy to make changes and further amendments that this group would be eager to see. Again, we would hope that this commission moves this without a recommendation, so we'd be able to do so as opposed to a denial, but I'm more than happy to work very collaboratively with this group to figure out a path moving forward.
Would notification of, homes within 1,000 feet as opposed to the 200 feet, be possible? So we're alerting the entire neighborhood as opposed to adding the 6 months.
There's notification in state law as well. We have to look into
Well,
that.
it's burdensome.
And I can speak very briefly to the National Historic District Registry. I mean, Pawtucket actually has a demo delay and it does extend to National Historic District registry properties.
But that's not what you're proposing today.
Exactly. So what we actually proposed was more of a balanced approach. So we didn't make it more broad. It sounds like people are interested in making it more broad. That was the balance that we tried to strike, which is why we only wanted to apply it to local historic districts. And so that's also important for the record.
Understood. Thank you. I mean, my opinion stands at where I was. I'm willing to add in recommendations to talk about notification and things like that, but I think as drafted,
Can I speak to that as well?
Councilman, we're trying to
Sure.
continue the meeting here. With all due respect,
Sure.
we've given you ample time
Mhm.
to make your point and continue to defer to you to more than we have any other applicant. We've given you more time and more back and forth.
This is very brief to your point. The notification process lives outside of the current zoning law. It is a separate statute. And I know this very intimately because I was the lead sponsor on changing that. So it's not a change to the zoning law, which is precisely why we didn't add it to this process. So just for everyone's understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I mean, we have to take a vote on this somehow, some way. We're sending a recommendation for approval, a recommendation for denial, or we're sending a neutral recommendation or any of the above with comments.
I'm personally neutral on this. I see the cons and the positives of both, so it's tough to make a recommendation.
I can't make a motion, but if
If
I were to
you'd
make,
like to make that motion, someone can second your motion.
sir, we're deliberating in decisions at this point.
Understood.
Can you? Thank you, Councilman. If I were to make the recommendation, I would just reiterate the planning board's recommendation, the planning department's recommendation. I don't think this adds anything. In fact, I think it could potentially harm unintentionally properties that are not historic and non-contributing.
Okay, I'll give that a so moved. I'll make the.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We don't have a second. The motion fails and we need another.
I'll make a motion that we,
We're gonna modify.
That we send it to the city council without a recommendation.
All right, we have a motion to send it to the city council without a recommendation. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a fully formed motion. Go around and take a vote. Noel?
Aye.
Will?
Aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
Dave?
I vote nay.
I vote nay.
Where does that
Motion
leave it?
carries. No recommendation. No problem. All right, at this point, it's 7 o'clock. We're gonna take a 5-minute restroom break, and then we're gonna come back at 7:05, and we are going to get to agenda item number 1. Thank you. Okay, we are going to call this meeting of the City Plan Commission back to order. Please, If you're joining us here in this room, please take your seats and we are going to hear agenda item number 1. Referral number 3580, it's 52 River Avenue. Bob Troyan, do you want to tee this one up while the applicant's getting ready?
Yeah, sure. Commissioner, and this is a request to rezone the subject property from M1 to MMU 75. And the purpose for doing this is to allow for the operation of a boxing gym, which is considered to be a use that takes place in an art studio according to the zoning ordinance. So the applicant's here and they can tell us more about the reasoning behind the proposed change.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the commission. For the record, Joseph Brennan on behalf of the applicant. It's a fairly very simple application. Although Troyan and staff didn't go too depth into it, they really got to the crux of it, which is the fact that the applicant is looking to use and revitalize the property at 52 River Avenue to use as a boxing gym. In part of the application, I think that you have, they're looking to do a proposed full-on renovation of the entire area. It would have, of the entire building. It would have 3 total units, their main unit that they would use as a boxing gym, and then 2 other ones with tenants to be determined that would obviously conform to the use of the zone, which we're looking to change it into. And it has a planned investment, a very abstract budget, and you can see how much they're really looking to invest into this property. The property is currently zoned M1. They're looking to change it to MMU 75. If you look at the map that they provided as part of their application, you can see that they're completely surrounded as a whole by the MMU 75 zone. It's really just the block and a half across the street and including them that is in the M1, but everything else neighboring them, abutting them, together with them, all in accordance, it's all the MMU 75. I think the report even stated at one point, it actually was zoned MMU 75, so we'd be actually just looking to bring it back. With that being said, that's really the entirety of the application. If the board had any questions for me, I can do my best to answer them.
No, thank you. I was here when we made a recommendation to the city council to intensify the use when it was MMU 75, and we made the recommendation to intensify the use to M1. So now you're coming back to ask us to de-intensify the use. I see no issue with that. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Is the purpose just to fit a different?
It's to fit a use. It's not allowed in M1, that's allowed in MMU 75.
If it was the lot right next door to us or the lot directly to the side of us, we'd be allowed to do it. It just so
this wasn't
happens we're
that
that
long
one part on our street that connects to across the street rather than on the same side as us.
How long, was it 3-4 years ago? Like top?
It was prior to 2020.
Yeah, it was right before COVID, I think, probably 2019. When someone representing this property came before us and asked them to or intensify it to M1. Maybe Lewis remembers, he's in the audience tonight. He was here then. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, so this is a public meeting. Is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak on this matter? Lev, do you see anyone? Okay. I can't control the screen. I don't want to touch this or I will break it.
Maybe
Lev, do you know how to do it, Troyan? We just need to see if you're joining us virtually, and you'd like to speak on this matter. It's a referral number
No, I don't see any.
3580 52 River Avenue. Please raise your virtual hand or press *9 if you're calling in. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment portion of this agenda item. Troyan, let's.
Sure, thanks, commissioners. And we went over this real quick. So this site used to be zoned MMU 75. It was rezoned to M1 and now they want to go back to MMU 75. Just based on the map, the zoning map, as well as the uses in the vicinity, we find that this change would be in conformance with the purposes of zoning as well as a comprehensive plan. And based on that, we would recommend that you recommend approval of the zone change to the city council.
Someone could just say so moved.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All right, go around with a voice vote. Noel,
Aye.
Will,
Aye.
Charlotte, Dave,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you, Chairman, Board, and staff for all your help.
All right, we'll move right along to agenda item number 2. We're making progress now. City Council referral, it's referral number 3581. It's abandonment of Adrian Way. Adrian Hallway, excuse me. Who wants to tee this up from the planning department? Choyan? Bob? Oh,
Okay, so this is a request for a partial abandonment of Adrian Hall Way. And this would allow for the expansion of the building that houses Trinity Rep. They have explained to us that they have issues in the building with circulation and access. And they want to install this addition that would have an elevator and other circulation components that would create accessibility for the entire building. Their building is built right to the property lines of this parcel. And so the request is that the abandonment just be for the footprint of the building that would push out into Adrian Hall Way. Another petition has been filed for a easement such that there can be stairs and ramps exterior to the building. As part of this, the Trinity and other stakeholders have worked with the Parks Department. There is a skate park adjacent to Adrian Hall Way, and there's it's sort of a triangle of land between Adrian Hall Way and the parking garage that's owned by the city and maintained by the Parks Department. The Parks has developed a concept for improvements to the skate park and the open space there. And the ultimate plan is that Adrian Hall Way would be turned into a pedestrianized area that can be used by the public to traverse. It would still have the skate park. There's a plan that shows some expansion of the skate park. And then there are other areas within the public right of way that could be used for outdoor programming as well. So that's the introduction, and I think we can turn it over to the petitioners.
Thank you, Mr. Azar. Good evening. My name is John McCoy. I'm attorney representing the applicant. On the team with me here, we have Neil Gravani and Joe Mallow from Narragansett Engineering, and De Silva's here from the project management company from Paragon Group, and executive director of Trinity Repertory Company, Katie Lieberman is here. Just one housekeeping note. Trinity Repertory Company is the current name. Name was changed in 1995. Title still has the old name of Trinity, but it's Trinity Repertory Company. So I just want to note that for housekeeping as we move along with the recommendation. Bob teed this up very well. This is the result of, as I understand it, numerous discussions been held over the past year, and even before that, between the stakeholders, Trinity Repertory Company, the city of Providence, and managed by the Parks Department, many meetings with them, and Trinity Brew House, which is at the end of Adrian Way, which is also in support of this project as well. It really seems to me to be a win-win. It's expanding access for the Trinity Repertory Theater. The building's old, as many of you may know. It's kind of a hodgepodge of different things. This will streamline the elevator system, ADA access, that's what the easement is for. Also is going to provide pedestrian way, green space, 1,400 square foot expansion of the skate park to increase their capacity as well. So really, to me, as I look at this, provides a win for all stakeholders and increases the green space. This has been a long meeting. I don't want to get too far into it, but Neil and Joe right here, they can put items on the screen. I'm glad to answer any questions that the commissioners have.
Thank you.
Did you want to share, are you, I'm sorry, what's the name?
Neil, it should be under Neil Hingrani. I'm raising.
Oh, yeah, yep, I got you. Yep, there we go.
There you go. All right.
Okay. Fantastic. Right, so, as was outlined, you can see the, proposed structure here, basically in a light brown. That's the area of the proposed abandonment. The light green, you can see, that's the stairs, the ADA accessible ramp, that would be the easement. What's in blue is essentially the remainder. That's Adrian Hall. That would remain, basically as is, not being abandoned. But the concept here, and it's a group concept, this is penned by the city's landscape architect. Basically shows the structure, some mixed-use open space, a pedestrian throughway, some added skate area. So I think well said, a win-win for all parties here. Happy to answer any questions on this, but I think it's been pretty well explained by staff.
This is primarily to add accessibility and ADA access throughout the Trinity Repertory Company's theater.
That is correct, yes.
And really, the addition is, as I understand it, and Neil, correct me, is the most narrow that's possible to accomplish those things and extend as little as possible into the alleyway. But with the kind of jog in the public access way, at 1,400 square feet of the skate park, on one end provides the smallest possible expansion for Trinity Rep, the building, to do those two things we talked about.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Yes, the right of way itself is only about 42 and a half feet wide, and the building expansion is only about 21 feet. So it's really just on the line of half of the right of way.
And again, that proposed sketch was drawn by the city's landscape architect.
Right, so this is the only area that's looking for the abandonment. The next slide shows what's going to be done with the rest of the street when it's made a pedestrian access by the city and the Parks Department, who will control it, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any other questions before, well, we actually have, we have Wendy from the Parks Department, the director of the Parks Department, superintendent, excuse me, who will be able to speak to the city side of this as well.
Is the skate park or the park itself losing any square footage, or is it only adding?
That might be a question for Wendy Nichols.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
That's under,
it's under the city's direction. It's not really under our purview here.
My only question was about whether there are commitments or I guess around the construction of this that would I guess during the construction of this, how do we think about whether this area is open to the public?
That's a good question.
I think we've developed some rough concepts. I don't think it's been completely vetted as far as order of operations, how things can go. I do think we could maximize the amount of time that it's open to the public as part of the construction control plans. I couldn't promise it would be open permanently. You know, there may be some points where it needs to be closed down, but I think that's something that could be written in.
Would the skate park remain open?
Again, I think that's outside of our envelope. I don't think anything Trinity's doing explicitly.
You wouldn't have any reason to close off any additional area beyond maybe a little bit more than the abandonment you're looking for?
Let me back up for a moment. So there is a significant utility reconfiguration that's going to happen as part of this project. Don't have the civil sheets here with me, but there are utility lines that basically run under where Trinity's proposed building is going to go. Particularly the sewer, so all those have to be rerouted.
those plans are pretty well developed, but, you know, in some, I would say, all of Adrian Hall, not simultaneously, you know, in pieces, will be, excavated to support that utility reconfiguration. So there's a lot of moving parts here, to get the building, the utilities in there. And then I think the final piece obviously would be the landscape piece, the pathway, any skate park expansions, greenscapes, et cetera.
What's your construction timeframe estimate?
I think Ann would be the better one to answer that.
You could go up, just state your name for the record, please. And affiliation.
Sure, and De Silva Peregrine Group, owner's project manager for Trinity Rep. So currently our estimated timeline, excuse me, is about 12 to 14 months from start. And we are hoping to really break ground in the fall timeframe. But that's all pending all of the approvals. There's a lot of different parts and pieces associated with this project.
I assume as far as sequencing goes, the utility relocation would be one of the first things you have to do, and then
That's correct.
the construction of the actual building.
Yep.
Anything else for the applicant before we bring up Wendy from the Parks Department?
Do we have, the existing, conditions plan?
We can look at it on Google Maps.
Yes, I could probably bring that up. Yes. Did you know?
If you look on the cover of your staff report, you kind of see it there. It's just not really visible, but that's like the
SB 100.
GIS.
SB 100 and 101 shows the condition in the packet.
You know,
A little smaller, but yeah. Should be able to get this up.
yeah, that's it, right? SV 100.
Yep, here we go. Thank you for your patience. Right, so here's the existing conditions, and I think you can see the utilities in the right of way, fairly significant.
It's that little place where you drive through, cut behind Trinity.
There's the parking area. That's, I don't know how I know it right there.
I've gotten a parking spot there once. Once. It wasn't 20 years ago when I, the first time and only time I've gotten a parking spot there.
And you're requesting an easement, and does an easement expire?
No, they're requesting an abandonment. Right?
Well, they're requesting both. And I'm not sure I can explain exactly why they're asking for an abandonment and an easement, but this was something that was worked out with our law department, whereby the footprint of the building itself is on land that would be abandoned right of way, and then what's shown in green here, the stairs and the ramping system, that would be by a permanent easement.
So like a sidewalk leading up to a building.
So who
Yeah.
pays taxes on that? Anybody?
I believe that Trinity Rep is a tax exempt, is property tax exempt.
But it won't be.
So the city of Providence and Trinity Rep, neither one pay taxes to the city.
But because Trinity Rep is a nonprofit, but if the building is.
If they sell it to a for-profit, then they're taxed on the improvements.
But so who owns the land?
The city owns well, if the abandonment happens, Trinity, the corporate structure, whatever it is, owns the land under the building, which is in that tan area, the two shades of tan. And then in green, the city still maintains a public right of way, so those those stairs would be something presumably the public can occupy, walk on, use, unless there are some other kind of restrictions with respect to the easement language. But again, this,
I'm just curious.
yeah.
So it would be built out to some imaginary property line, so the setbacks and all that.
Yes. Yeah, no setbacks in downtown. You can build right to the property line.
But there is no property line going in.
Well, the property line will be, if this abandonment gets approved, will be what Neil just drew in orange around.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. I think we'd like to hear from Wendy now. And Brian, of course. I always want to hear from you, Brian. Come on.
Everybody does.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you for sticking around with us this evening.
Thanks for having us.
So maybe actually before you're still sharing, right? Can you go to the proposed landscape plan that shows the city improvements post-construction? That's it. Perfect. Thank you. So I guess maybe you can walk us through the city's idea, the plans, what's being added. We've gotten a lot of testimony or written comment prior to this meeting from skateboarders worried about their skate park. So maybe you can give us a little bit of insight onto what's going to happen here, how it's going to continue operations, et cetera.
Yeah, if I can preface that, we are only adding space to the skate park, that nothing is being deleted from that. It is being added from it. And we've worked really hard with folks from the skateboard community, but also with the folks from Trinity Rep and from the city to create a space where there is value-added skating, where there's a public walkway, pedestrian walkway access, and where Trinity can have really state-of-the-art ADA access and just a real aesthetic improvement also to downtown for all these elements, and hopefully can work together. And I think before Brian goes into detail about that, I think that the details about the skate park have not been determined. All we have been doing is determining what the most ideal footprint would be with all the givens and all of the restrictions and all of the things needed for the different construction elements. So on that note, my friend Brian.
Hi, Brian Burns, Deputy Superintendent of Parks. So what you see here is the removal of a city street that was very close to a park. So 100%, the user safety here has been increased dramatically with this addition. So in addition to that, we've added green space, which you see highlighted in light green there. The pedestrian walkway that runs through it will provide a safe passageway, which typically in the past, people going to the AMP have been walking in the middle of a city street that's very narrow, cars come down. We tried to close it off for a proof of concept and it did not go well. Cars drove through the bollards that we installed. So we know a permanent abandonment is the only way to make this area safe. The skate park area is extended. And overall, I think it's a benefit for both the skaters who we engaged with for many, many years and our partners in the work that we'll be doing in the park, the additional improvements there, adding to the skate area. So we think it's a good project that'll benefit both groups.
My interpretation from the letters that we received is that they saw a plan at some point during discussions. Is this similar to the plan that you think they saw at some point? Because my gut was from reading their letters is they saw Trinity's plan, which didn't include any of the parks or the city improvements. And they were very concerned about what was going to happen to their skate park with the city skate park. It's actually the city's. And I don't think that was included with some of the documentation they were looking at.
Yeah, we did not, we circulated, we sent out the plan, which is very similar to this. The only difference is that the ADA access ramp extended further. But since we sent that, we had, Trinity and, Peregrine had tightened that up and made that closer, so there was actually more room for the shared space. I think that was really the only consequential difference there. But it's my understanding, I haven't, that there was, some documents circulated amongst the skateboarders that may have been different than that.
Okay, fair enough.
I
Question?
do not know that for certain, but that's, yeah.
Absolutely. Any other questions for the city? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's hear the overview, recommendations, staff report. Guess we need findings of fact on the staff report, recommendations.
Right, so, per your policy on street abandonments, there are several criteria. The first is that a public interest is demonstrated. The proposed abandonment will allow for enhancement of the Trinity Rep building. It'll allow for improved accessibility, and circulation and function of the facility. There will be improvements to the walkway, to Adrian Hall Way as a pedestrian way, provision of green space, compliance with accessibility requirements, and in addition to the skate park. These will collectively result in a promotion of the public interest. We don't expect that there will be negative impact on existing land use. Adrian Hall Way will continue to provide pedestrian access. And, you know, I'll say this about, you know, I'm sure we'll be hearing from users of the skate park. This is kind of a classic example of you know, ways in which we need to compromise when we're working in tight quarters in a city. And I think that what we've seen from this illustration demonstrates that there are ways to you know, accommodate both Trinity and the skate park users. I think this plan that we saw was very well executed. So we don't expect that there will be negative impacts on existing land uses. All abutting landowners agree to the proposed abandonment. It's the city of Providence and Trinity Rep that are the property owners abutting the abandonment, and they both agree to this. No physical or legal access will be denied to any land or property. I think that's evident by the plan. As was mentioned, there are public utilities that need to be moved. So in the event that any easements are necessary, those would have to be granted, but it seems like relocation is going to be the plan here. And this has all been shown on a petition or a plan. So our recommendation is that the petitioner apply for an administrative subdivision to merge the abandoned street with their property prior to the public hearing before the city council. I believe we already have a draft of that. And that the petitioner shall either grant necessary easements and or relocate utilities within that abandonment area.
Okay, thank you, Bob. This is a public meeting, so at this point, we will open up public comment on this agenda item. Again, this is referral number 3581, the abandonment of Adrian Hall Way. We have one person, well, we have two people, but I think Councilman Sanchez has already departed us, I believe. He wanted to speak on this one as well. But I don't see him here.
No. He's not here.
And the next person is Colin O'Connor. Same rules as the last, you get about 2 minutes, set my timer and we'll roll.
Thank you, council, for having me. Thank you to the Providence City Parks Department. My name is Colin O'Connor. I'm a skateboarder currently at Trinity Skate Park, and I've been there since its inception. I helped lay the concrete for it. The revised proposal that was given to us in 2024 takes 3 times as much surface area as the 2019 proposal that we were given originally. It goes from 1,100 square feet to about 3,200. The original proposal gave room for ADA compliant ramps as well as expansion to Trinity Repertory and gave more land for public accessible walkways and the skate park. In the current proposal, I find that there would be a problem of crossover between the pedestrians and skateboarders. There's already a problem where pedestrians will use the skate park as a public walkway and will get hurt, and I've seen it happen. I believe it'd be better suited to use more space for walkway rather than Trinity Repertory if they're already getting what they want with the original proposal. I believe that we would have far broader impact on the community with more public green space as well as a skate park than we would than a private for-profit theater on a non-taxable building. And this is in no way to seem unthankful for what they've given us already. I want to preface that. We're very grateful. Trinity Skate Park fosters community and benefits a large swath of the population. It encourages an active lifestyle. It offers a safe space for people to make new friends and pursue a hobby, which they love. I've personally seen hundreds of unique faces use Trinity Skate Park, and not just from within Rhode Island, but from outside of Rhode Island as well. People will come from all over the Northeast, and I've seen people come from so far as Florida and California to skate the skate park because it is pretty famous. The spaces right now is pretty actively maintained by the users of Trinity. We keep it clean, we keep it safe, and I've seen that alley in utter disarray before with hypodermic needles and broken bricks, and I've seen it transformed into a place that I like to call home, away from home. And so I'd like to see the 2019 proposal be moved forward in opposition of the 2024 proposal, and I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the public that would like to speak on this item? State your name for the record, please.
My name is Miles Chavarria. Thank you, council. Thank you, Parks Department. I would like to just be in agreement with my friend Colin. I came here to specifically talk about the pedestrian walkway being taken away by the expansion of Trinity. I saw a proposal in which there would be the expansion over the old parking spaces for Trinity and their workers, in which it would take away pedestrian walkways, which would then have pedestrians walking in the skate park, possibly causing them injuries, which, as Colin and I have both seen happen in the past. I would like to make sure that is prevented. I don't want anyone getting hurt. We already get hurt from skating, and we do that on our own accord. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
These are the council. I have the original proposal, street communications. And you said you had not seen them, and they said that they do not know where they come from.
When we make public comment, it has to be at the podium. That would be nice to see it at some point, but I don't think we can accept it right now. If you're joining us from home and you'd like to speak on this agenda item, I keep saying home, but it could be from anywhere. If you're joining us virtually, please raise your virtual hand, or press *9 if you're calling in. And is there anyone else here in the public who would like to speak on this? And no one at home, so we will close the public comment portion of this agenda item. So we've heard from a lot of skateboarders, obviously here tonight and at prior to this meeting, they've submitted written testimony. One thing I do know is I know Wendy and Brian well. And if they say they're going to work with the skateboarders and figure out what makes sense, I believe that they will. I'm not really worried about that. We're here tonight to talk about the abandonment of a certain portion and the easements surrounding that portion. The city will then do what they do with the skate park. I don't know that that's really under our purview because the city owns the land and they're going to do what they want anyway. They already own the skate park land and they've given it to that use. And if Wendy and Brian say that they're going to do something, I believe wholeheartedly that they will. So I have no issue with this. I also am a supporter of the arts and enjoy going to see items at place at Trinity Rep. I don't know how they're going to get ADA accessibility to every level in that theater, but that's their problem to work out. They have smarter people than me to figure that out. Good luck. But I think this is a natural use, and I would be favorable to move forward the recommendations of the planning staff.
So only a part of the street is being abandoned.
Yeah, the remainder is going to continue to be owned by the city and used for pedestrian use. They're going to abandon vehicle usage in it. But only a portion of it is going to be abandoned and merged into the Trinity Repertory Company's parcel.
I guess the point that I do take from what we've heard tonight is that there's a very thin line dividing the public walkway and the skate park, and just in moving forward and thinking through what that line represents, we might want to think about how to make sure people don't get hurt and don't have colliding uses.
I'm sure Brian and Wendy will be talking to the skateboarders and figure out how that works. You might even get your skateboard out. Well, I'd like to do that. Yeah, I mean, again, that's something the city is going to have to do. If people get hurt on that, it's city property and the city self-insures. So that's an issue. I'm sure that a few accidents will not.
Yeah.
It'll only take one or two. But hopefully that doesn't get to that point. Hopefully they think about it, think it through.
So we need a motion.
Yeah.
We're in deliberation and discussion, heading into a motion and decision. So yes, you're welcome to make a motion.
Motion to support the planning department's recommendation to abandon said property. Not good enough?
Yeah, subject to the findings in the staff report and the conditions in the staff report.
I'm learning.
Yeah. All right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right. We'll go around and do a voice vote. We have a fully formed motion. Noel?
Aye.
Will?
Aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Best of luck and continue to work with the skateboarders and make them happy. Thank you. All right, moving right along. We are now going to hear agenda item number 6. We're finally meeting up with the agenda at the right place. This is in order. We're taking this one in order. It's a land development project, public hearing, case number 24-021 MA, 199 Oxford Street, Mary E. Fogarty School. We're gonna wait before we start this to make, you're ready? Okay. Yeah, now we don't have to wait.
All right, thanks, commissioners, and a quick introduction while the applicants are setting up. So this is a request for master plan approval for the reconstruction rather of the Mary Fogarty School. The applicant is proposing to demolish the structure and reconstruct it in a different configuration than it is currently on the subject lot. They will be providing parking on the lot in addition to other amenities like landscaping, and they'll also be talking about traffic and the building's design and how it relates to the site as they present their plan. This is a request for unified development review from the corner side yard setback, and they'll be telling you about why that's necessary for this development. So the applicant's here and they can take it away and tell you more about the project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Christopher Menahan with West Group Law. We're here tonight on behalf of the city of Providence. And so, as was mentioned, we're here for a major LDP of the new Mary E. Fogarty School. The project is located at 199 Oxford Street, which is in Lower South Providence. And it's zoned public space. So this development is by right within this zone.
And tonight we'll hear from, architecture, Toronto Architects. And for engineering, David D'Amico, Derek Hug of PAR, and, Diane Soul. So tonight the city is seeking, the approval of the master plan and one variance, which is from the corner side yard setback. And so with that, I can turn it right over. We have,
Would I be able to get permission to share? please?
Yeah, what are you labeled as? Lustra? Okay. We know that name.
This is Louis C.
Oh, pleasure to meet you.
Am I gonna be able to borrow that microphone?
yes, I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna get.
No, I read it because I wanna be.
Please, also move, hello.
Things are a lot tougher on this side of the table. I say that because I was a fellow commissioner for many, many years.
Yes.
So it's good to be back here and see you, but should I start?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chairman, commission members. My name is Louis Torado. I am the president of Torado Architects. We're really excited to present this new Fogarty Elementary School to you. We thought to give you an idea of what we're talking about, the essence of the design and the quality of the development. We're going to show you a brief video that kind of sets everything up. Well, there's some really nice background music to this, we're not hearing, but, oh wait, here it is. Okay, so. Yeah. So, as it was mentioned, the proposed building is going on the existing location of the existing school. It is an 810 school, student facility, which is a large building. It is a pre-K through 8 with 3 and 4 tracks, meaning 3 and 4 classrooms per grade. One of the main elements of 21st century learning is creating this sense of community. And so one of the main design ideas is developing this Ed Hub, which is a media center that's combined with STEAM rooms, with maker spaces, and it's a collaborative space. It's used for presentation. You have overlooking balconies with other media spaces. You have this grandstand that connects you to the upper level where we have art rooms, and all of this is like the heart of the school. 21st century education is based on collaboration and team building. So this gives you an idea of really what the heart of the school is. It's exciting in that we want to create an environment that the students are excited to come to school with. The stars is because the school logo is the Fogarty All Stars. So you see how old this. Okay, thank you. So then we're gonna start, the next plan is the site plan. The existing building is located around here. Directly adjacent to a school site is a city park. The main entrance to the building is located here on Oxford Street. It's a parent drop-off area and also kindergarten drop-off area. On the opposite side of the block is Sale Street. That's where the bus drop-off area is. We want to separate the bus drop-off
as much as possible from the parent drop-off. And then off Ocean Street, we provide parking for 29 spaces. We also have a kiss-off lane. There are two existing basketball courts that are located here. They have really great value to the community, very emotional attachment to it. So we were asked to make sure that we maintain those two basketball courts. The academic wing of the building is this wing, where all the classrooms and learning spaces, learning commons are located. So in order for us to get the length of building that we need to meet the program and maintain the basketball courts, we need relief on this side yard variance. And that's what we're here for. Next, please. I'm just gonna go very briefly through this, and you see the main entrance of the building, administration, security, checkpoint, academic wings. All of these classrooms are arranged in a new way so that you have learning commons and open space at the center of them, and then this big ed hub at the center of it. You have the cafeteria, the gymnasium, and then in the back of where the bus drop off, you have receiving, kitchen and receiving. The other really, I think, special element of this building is this, what we call a community hub. So we know that in order to make schools successful, we need to get as much as possible parent involvement, and we need to engage the community. So this community hub is used as a magnet for that. It will have its own entrance. It has a community room. All of these schools, counselors, guidance psychologists are located here. We have additional meeting rooms for parents to come in. And then one of the things that we learned from COVID was the value that school clinics can provide to a community. And so these are designed as a smart clinic that is really also a community clinic that could be used for that. We have some remote administration. So this is, I think, a really important element to the Providence School Department because it will be a great community asset, as well as providing, you have all of this area really becomes community use, after school programs, after media center, and the academic wings are easily separated from that. Okay, next. Same idea, academic wings overlooking the ed hub, and the third floor, similar layout. You see how the building stacks together. In order to get the economy of scale that we need, these plates stack on top of each other. That makes it very economical. And then in order to break that 2-3-story mass that we have the kindergartens and pre-kindergarten classrooms project on beyond that, and that gives you a lower human scale to the first floor. This is the main entrance. These are traffic control elements, but also we want to really celebrate the height of the building, not try to disguise it. So we have this entrance that is going to be a very attractive element at the entrance and announce the community involvement. Next one, please. And then this is the community hub. You see it has its own entrance. It's got a very nice community room, and you see the bus drop-off area here. Some of the shots of the ed hub. And then it even looks good in bad weather, we think. So it's going to be, we feel, we're very excited. It's a beacon to the community, the renaissance of the Providence school system and department. So we're very excited to do that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our engineer, Dave D'Amico, who is going to discuss the civil plans.
Thank you, Louis. Good evening, board members. My name is David D'Amico, and I am a professional engineer in the state of Rhode Island. And I have been in front of this board several times. And I am with the firm of D'Amico Engineering Technologies with offices at 2080 Mineral Spring Avenue in Rhode Island. And this is the existing condition. Louis, can I just use your pointer? And I'll just go over, Louis went over the fantastic stuff. Let me just get into the nuts and bolts with you pretty quickly. Lot number 2, there are actually 2 lots here. There is a dividing property line here. And we are sitting on about 2.33 acres for lot number 2. You can see the outline of the old structure, the old building. There is old utilities going through Burnside. As you can see, the existing structure saddled right over them, which we will end up doing the same. So that's kind of, and the property, that 2 acres is primarily impervious pavement right now. So we can, I think that's pretty good. That's good. So, again, basic, a little bit more, engineering style here. The structure is the darker shade here. The new sidewalk, we will end up constructing new sidewalk along the whole length of Sales, Ocean, and Oxford Street. We are providing what we call protective parking along Oxford Street. That is the drop off, the main drop off. And then some on Ocean Street. There is a lot of no parking along both streets. So this is a positive. They're not very wide streets through here. The parking area, we were fortunate enough, that with this style building, we were able to get in 29 parking spaces right in here. Essentially, there are going to be 66 employees for the facility. And then the parking comes to the need of 22 by zoning, and we are providing, I believe it was 29, correct. I don't know why I had 27 in my head. Yeah. So, and then as you can see, we protected again the buses. This is the old street line, and we're able to project into the property the way the property lines were, and we can get the buses off the main line there while they wait for the students to load and unload in that area. We have the working area of the building where the cafeteria, where the drop-offs will be. There will be a gate here. This is the transformer. The rest now will all be playground area, all grass in the front. We will have an area here for the bike racks that are required. And then, as you can see, we preserved the basketball court, and we have about 10 feet here. This is that inner property line, but we need 10 feet right here, and we're proposing 3.7 right now. So we're looking for a variance of 6.3, I believe it is. And so that's really, and I'll just go quickly through the relative to future drainage. Essentially, all the utilities, it looks like we can come right off Sales Street into the building. And as you can see, the existing lines coming through here, we will bridge them in coordination with DPW. They have looked at the lines. We will do what we need, our due diligence relative to engineering to be able to do this. There will be most likely special foundation work to bridge it in these 2 locations, not unusual. in the city or around the state. And then we will look to go with subsurface drainage for the parking area, and in the back for the roof runoff. If, primarily if the soil is favorable, we believe, I believe this area, of the city, the soil is very favorable. It's a sandy soil, and it's favorable for that. So, that's, pretty much wraps it up on the civil end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Diane Soul. I'm the landscape architect for the project. My office is, thank you, in Smithfield, Rhode Island. Oh, yeah, the side. Got it. So just to start off, we've met all the landscape requirements for the city landscape ordinance, and that's composed mainly of the perimeter trees that you see on this line drawing. We've got along Harriet Street, we have trees. Some of the there were tree wells there. Some of the trees had died. The tree wells sort of remained. So we are proposing to infill those tree wells where the trees are missing. And then along Sales Street, we are continuing the trees and the tree wells up into the corner, up in that area right there. And then down Oxford, we have set the trees interior, not in tree wells, but in the landscape portion there. And then we continue that location of the trees along Oxford Street behind the sidewalk, as opposed to in the sidewalk like we've shown before. We've got perimeter or foundation plantings, softening the facade between the parking and the facade of the building. And in front, we have included plantings to magnify the entrance into the building. Along the west side, we've got foundation plantings up along the walk. And then these residences here, we have a barrier, well, it's a buffer. It'll probably be 6 or 7 feet tall, evergreen buffer that will screen these folks here from the park. And then these are all existing trees. We've kept those trees, of course, and then these are existing trees that are to remain. And I think that's the majority of it. Here it is rendered. You'll see the buffer between the private property here, these two existing trees and the line that I talked about all remain. And then these are the playground areas that will be developed in the next phase there are 4 different age groups, pre-K, K, and then can't really read it from here. But there are 4 in all. The basketball courts remain, and then you can see the tree cover, how it really wraps the whole perimeter. The trees up here are smaller because the canopies need to be narrow so they don't interfere with the building. And then in various places, we have flowering trees. All the species and everything will be determined later on. This is just a visual for what we're planning. I think that is it for now.
Would you mind introducing yourself?
Good evening, board members. My name is Derek Hugg. I am the managing engineer for the traffic engineering group at Park Corporation. Our office is in Lincoln. I am a registered professional engineer in the state of Rhode Island, as well as a registered professional traffic operations engineer. I'm the last one to speak tonight. I am not gonna spend a lot of time. I know you've all been here a long time. So our analysis for this school has not yet been 100% completed. I'll tell you what we have done, what we still need to do. What we have done is we went out last month on a Thursday, and we did we reviewed and observed all the operations for the arrival and departure of the students and faculty for the school. Every school has its own little brand of insanity that happens twice a day. One little example is at the front of the existing school. There's a parking lot here in the southeast corner, and then there's another smaller one right next to it. And in the middle, there is a raised walkway from the street, goes to the front of the building. And oh, there you go. Yeah, this little guy right here, right? So the parents are supposed to drop off on Oxford Street in the morning. But some of them go into this parking lot and they drop off their kid and walk them to the door. But then the problem is it's a dead end. So they gotta try to turn around and get out, but they don't have room to do that. So they actually jump the raised walkway so they can go out through this parking lot over here. Now, there's gonna be a building there, so we're gonna take care of that little problem, but we notice all those little things, and what we try to do is one, we have to, in this case, we have to scale those issues to the new population of the school. What's the existing population of the school? Is 500 something, 550, I think, something like that? Or 450. And now it's gonna be 810. So it's not quite double, but you know, we have to scale everything up to the new population of the school and see what lessons there are to be learned from the existing operation that we can apply to the new school. So we have done all of those observations. Traffic counts on the four corners of the blocks. They may have been done today even, but they're certainly being done this week if they weren't done today. And so what we need to do from this point forward is do our trip generation. So we're gonna try to, again, take the existing information that we get from our traffic counts and observations and scale that up. Do our capacity analyses. We've also done some speed studies. We did some speed studies out on Ocean and on Sales because we suspected that those were the two places where there might be some access. Actually, I'm sorry, it was Oxford and Ocean. We found traffic speeds were generally 25 miles an hour or below for the most part. We've also looked at crash data in the area. Nothing particularly alarming showed up there either. So we will go forward with our traffic analyses and release a full traffic study probably within before the next stage of submissions. And that's all I've got for right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's all we have. Thank you. If there are any questions, we're certainly happy to answer.
You're requesting variances UDR, so this is zoning and planning. You're requesting variance. Do you want to go through that request and the requirements the findings that you need to affirm so that we can make our decision? You have a few experts there that can probably speak to the findings necessary.
Okay, sure.
And if you need help, the staff report has them all listed out.
Oh, that's right.
If I can be of a little assistance here, the relief is for corner side yard setback. I believe Mr. Torado spoke to the program of the school and the space needs. So
The desire to preserve the basketball court.
the basketball court
And
and
therefore not
right.
increasing, yeah.
And so I think that speaks to the unique conditions of the property, certainly.
Okay.
And that it's a hardship that they didn't cause themselves.
Right, not result of any prior action of the applicant. It wouldn't alter the general characteristic because the large building there, and then, it's due to the unique characteristics. And that it would be more than a mere inconvenience if not granted, because then they wouldn't be able to carry on with the programmatic aspects that are already scheduled for this building. Okay. All right, there you go. I think we did that well for you. All right, you good? All right. Any questions for the applicant?
We've reviewed a few schools lately. In my opinion, this is the best looking one, so I'd just like to say that. Yep. there you go.
It is, and transcribed.
I like it. That doesn't mean much to anyone else, but I have one question for you really quickly. Page C 3.0, it says gas service per RI Energy Design. What's the gas service for?
The gas service is for, power, the energy, and they're gonna heat the building, with the, is this on?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So the existing building is, serviced with gas, and we're gonna service the proposed building with gas. It's all, we have plenty of gas in the vicinity, so I believe, I'm not a mechanical, but I believe it is the most efficient way to heat a building of this magnitude. So we're gonna connect. Rhode Island Energy is the company now that we would connect to the building. Is that your question? Is that what you're meaning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're.
Very, very small use of gas. Really, it's a net zero building. It's all electric. It is the same system that we recently designed for the Debate Elementary School, which we're proud to announce that we won the Green Ribbon Award for energy efficiency awarded by the U.S. Department of Education right here in Providence. So it's the most energy efficient and economical system. If we use gas, it will be very little.
You didn't walk into his trap. You were starting to. Lewis, you knew it was coming.
That's what I could see Brian shaking his head. Yeah. Two other schools recently approved Kazarian and.
If you're gonna speak, you have to come up.
I can bring the mic.
Well, he has to come in and say his name and
Yeah.
affiliation for the record, and we're recording this and it's being transcribed.
Hi, good evening. Steve Smith with Downs Construction. We're the owner's project manager for the project and other school projects here in the city. So I just wanted to point out to Lewis's point, it'll be an all-electric building similar to Kazarian and Spaziano Middle School, which you just recently also approved. And last summer, we finished debate in the elementary school at Spaziano as well. So the theme is all schools will be all electric.
Okay.
Right, we're aware, just checking, that's all, just checking. Great job, best looking school design, all
Reinforcing.
through, just checking. That's
I wasn't gonna say coal.
Noel, Will, Charlotte, any,
Sorry, I'm still confused on this point, but there is still a gas connection, so it's not
Yeah.
truly all electric. It's,
I think there's some supplemental gas or,
Yeah, we really haven't gotten into the MEP design, so Dave has that in there, but we're not sure if there will be any gas.
got it.
There may be a little gas for backup on emergency or a generator. on the premises. That was my
There's
question.
a generator, yeah.
Probably a generator would be my guess. Okay, I'm aware that, everyone's trying to design an it's just a question, because it was on the plan and it wasn't, preliminary. Just checking, that's all. This is a very, very important issue to the city. So we're just making sure everything is going as it should. And I know it's late, but
they're here. We need to ask them the questions. Yes.
Well, so my question, because it come up in a couple other schools, is really the traffic plan and the pattern. I know the Sales Street's kind of narrow, Oxford's a little bit bigger. But I'm sure you're thinking about it. But
And then
keep it in mind, it's.
there will be a full traffic study submitted next at preliminary.
That's correct. And for my little anecdote about people launching themselves over the walkway, for all the schools that we at PAR have reviewed the traffic for and the actual operations for, this one actually runs pretty smoothly. Especially given that it's in such a tight, that the geometry is so tight out here. You know, there's 20 minutes in the morning and there's 20 minutes in the afternoon that are tough. So Sales Street becomes one way during arrival and dismissal periods. And so that's kind of how that get away with Sales being a narrow street. The buses arrive at Sales Street for the morning, and they actually stack on Oxford in the afternoon for pickup. Whether I don't believe that is for right now going to be the plan, but what they do really well here is that they have a tiered or staged dismissal. So that they have a bell that goes off like every 5 or 10 minutes. And so even though there's between 9 and 11 full-size buses that service the school currently, there is never more in the afternoon. There's never more than 4 buses stacked on Oxford Street. And so it's something that they do a really, really good job of here. And it's definitely an aspect of their operations that we'd be looking to keep going forward. But yes, so there will be a full traffic study that will be coming with preliminary plan.
And the traffic study include Prairie Avenue, which is one street over from Harriet, and then Eddy Street, which is where everything empties out on the other end.
As of right now, we're just looking at the 4 corners. So there's the Harriet, Sales, Oxford, and Ocean. So we're keeping it within the neighborhood. If there's a request from the city to expand that beyond that, we will do that. But right now, what the issue that I'm trying to get from the city, and maybe somebody here can help me with that, is when this becomes the pre-K through 8 school that it's intended to be, I'm not exactly sure what the district for this particular school is going to be, and I don't really know where that demand is coming from quite yet. That is one thing I got to work out once I get all these traffic counts ready to go. And so that will help me determine if there needs to be an expansion. You know, if we see demand is coming from one specific direction, the way the district lays out, and that there's a particular intersection that we haven't looked at that looks like it's going to get a lot of demand, that doesn't necessarily get a lot of demand right now, that is definitely something that would be on the table going forward to look at. But right now, I don't know what that intersection might be, whether it's Prairie Avenue or Eddy Street or whatever.
I just know that there's new 4-way stops both at Prairie and at Eddy Street that have relieved the traffic on Oxford Street. And I don't know what Sales does, but it's not. What's that?
Should we look at Prairie?
I think so. It's 1 block over.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty busy street, you know, bringing people up and down the downtown.
Yeah, I think you should look at the arteries that you're spilling out into. That's the one question we can answer. The other question as to where you're drawing for your district, that's not anything we can answer. We have no idea.
No, and I think it's something that the Providence School Department is working on, it's just a moving on.
Yeah, understood.
I think I knew a little bit about this project right when it was going out for an RFP, and it seemed at that time like their plan was to build the school on the other half of the parcel while the existing school remains in action. Just more out of curiosity, how come it switched gears towards this?
I think that there were some folks that were not aware of what the Parks Department was planning for that they built an incredibly beautiful couple of $1 million park, and
Yeah.
so that those plans were revisited.
The water park, right?
Yeah, it's already done. Well, Louis, I have to say, it was fun, the many years that I served with you on this commission, hearing you tear apart everyone's architectural choices.
I was
There.
afraid of payback.
You have to let me finish.
Okay,
It was enjoyable hearing you do that. And I was kind of hoping that Charlotte would take the mantle, but unfortunately, I tend to agree with,
Well, this isn't a design review
with Dave that
at all.
it is the best looking that we've seen so far of the last few schools. We've seen a few schools, and I think you did a good job with what you were given.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
And
thank you for being so kind.
That's all I really have to say on that. So, let's hear the staff report, and then we'll open up the public comment.
Yeah, sure, Commissioners. So we've been through these components. As you saw, the applicant would conform to the dimension and design regulations of the zone. They'll meet the parking and landscaping requirements. As far as the variance goes, we did speak about that their hardship that they have incurred is because of the programming of the school, which is required to provide a certain type of function and utility, and which is why they need that setback. And this hardship is not a result of the applicant, as this is a school. Granting this variance isn't going to really affect neighborhood character, and denial of this relief would result in a mere inconvenience, as discussed, by reducing the building's footprint and affecting its function. So based on that, we would recommend that you grant the dimensional relief. This plan is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, as this is an area intended for public space where schools are, which is, intentionally meant for schools. And also would be in conformance with objective CS1 of the plan, which encourages development and provision of public educational facilities. So the use, dimension, and design, parking, and landscaping are in conformance with the ordinance. We don't foresee a negative environmental impact. There will be no physical constraints that impact development of the property. And physical access to the site will be provided from Oxford, Ocean, and Sale Street. So based on that, we would recommend that you approve the master plan subject to granting the dimensional variance.
Okay, thank you very much, Troyan. This is a public hearing. So at this point, we will open it up to public comment. I don't see anyone signed up here, so if you're here in the audience and you'd like to speak on this agenda item, raise your hand or come over to the side. If you're joining us virtually, please raise your virtual hand or press *9 if you're calling in. And seeing none, we will close the public comment portion of this agenda item. All right, master plan, another school. These guys seem to have a little bit more done than a few that we've seen, which I'm pleased with. And they're coming back with traffic and whatnot. So we're gonna start, we have 2 votes tonight, 2, right? The zoning and the master plan. So we'd start with the dimensional variance, the zoning relief. And if someone were to make a motion on that, they would need to reference the findings that we discussed and the testimony and the staff report as the groundwork for granting the dimensional variance.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, Will seconds it. We have a fully formed motion. We'll go around, we'll do a voice vote. Noel?
Aye.
Will?
Aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Next would be the approval of the master plan, again, based on the staff report, testimony and discussion this evening.
So moved. Second.
All right, fully formed, we'll go around. Noel?
Aye.
Will?
Aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Best of luck and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
At this point, that was the last agenda item, I believe. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. We adjourn.
A little late, but we're there.
An hour.